In 38 years on this bench, I thought I had seen everything. I was wrong. What happened in my courtroom that November morning didn't just break my heart. It restored my faith in human dignity. But to understand why a police chief's impossible choice became the most talked about moment in Providence legal history, you need to know what his son did to a 70-year-old Vietnam veteran in broad daylight. Picture this, a cold Tuesday morning, November 15th. I'm reviewing what appears to be a routine assault case. The defendant is 32-year-old Derek Cole, son of Police Chief Thomas Cole, a man I've known and respected for 15 years. The victim, Robert Martinez, a decorated Marine who survived 3 tours in Vietnam, only to be attacked in a Providence park by someone young enough to be his grandson. But here's what nobody in that packed courtroom knew yet. Chief Cole was sitting in the back row wearing civilian clothes, his badge tucked away. He hadn't told his son he was coming, and the reason he was there would shock everyone, including me. The case file told a disturbing story. 3 days earlier, Robert Martinez was walking his dog in Roger Williams Park when Derek Cole's BMW came speeding through at excessive speed. When Martinez raised his hand to signal Derek to slow down, a simple gesture any grandfather might make, Derek slammed on his brakes, got out, and confronted the elderly veteran. According to 3 witnesses, Derek shoved Martinez to the ground so hard that the 70-year-old man hit his head on the pavement and suffered a concussion, 3 broken ribs, and a fractured wrist. When bystanders tried to intervene, Derek allegedly said something that made my blood boil. "Do you know who I am? My father is the police chief. Call the cops. I dare you." Then he drove away, leaving a decorated veteran bleeding on the ground. Martinez spent 2 nights in Rhode Island Hospital. The security footage went viral on local news, and the entire city demanded justice. But what they were about to witness in my courtroom was something unprecedented, a moment that would prove some fathers love justice more than protecting their children from consequences. When Derek Cole walked into my courtroom at exactly 10:30 that morning, everything about him screamed entitlement, designer suit, expensive watch, and that arrogant smirk that immediately told me he expected his father's position to make this all disappear. He moved like he owned the place, like he was doing us all a favor by showing up. Behind him walked Marcus Richardson, one of Providence's most expensive defense attorneys, the kind who specializes in making wealthy clients' problems vanish. But what caught my attention wasn't Derek's expensive legal representation. It was how he passed by Robert Martinez, who sat in the gallery wearing his Vietnam veteran cap and supporting his broken wrist in a cast. Derek didn't even glance at him. No acknowledgement, no remorse, nothing. That's when I knew this young man needed to learn a lesson that money couldn't teach. "Mr. Cole," I began standing up from my bench, something I do when I sense a case requires more than legal formality. "You're charged with assault and battery on an elderly person, specifically on Mr. Martinez, a 70-year-old Vietnam veteran. How do you plead?" His attorney jumped up quickly. "Your Honor, my client pleads not guilty. We believe this is a case of mistaken identity." I held up my hand. "Counselor," I asked your client, not you, Mr. Cole. "Do you have a voice?" Derek stood up, adjusted his suit jacket, and looked directly at me with that same arrogant smirk. "Not guilty, Your Honor. This whole thing is ridiculous. Ridiculous." The word hung in the air like a slap to every person in that courtroom who understood the gravity of what he'd done. I slowly removed my glasses. My signature move when someone is about to receive a reality check. "Ridiculous, Mr. Cole. I've reviewed the security footage. I've read the hospital reports. I've seen the photographs of Mr. Martinez's injuries. Would you like to reconsider your characterization of this case is ridiculous?" Derek glanced at his lawyer, who was frantically trying to signal him to stay quiet, but his ego wouldn't let him back down. "Your Honor, with all due respect, this is being blown out of proportion. Some old guy got in my way. I barely touched him, and now I'm being dragged into court like a criminal." The gallery gasped. Did he just call a Vietnam veteran some old guy? Did he just say he barely touched a man who spent 2 nights in the hospital? But Derek wasn't finished revealing his character. When I asked if he knew who Mr. Martinez was, he shrugged and said, "Some guy who was in my way." That's when I did something I rarely do. I walked around from behind my bench to the front of the courtroom, eliminating the formal distance between judge and defendant. "This means something big is about to happen. Mr. Martinez," I said, looking directly at the elderly veteran, "would you please stand and tell Mr. Cole who you are?" Robert Martinez slowly stood, supporting himself with his good arm. Your Honor, my name is Robert Martinez. I served in the United States Marine Corps from 1968 to 1971. I did 2 tours in Vietnam. I was awarded the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star for valor. I'm a retired Providence firefighter. I've lived in this city for 50 years. And 3 days ago, this man assaulted me for no reason other than I asked him to slow down in a public park. The courtroom fell absolutely silent. Here was a man who had risked his life for his country, who had spent 30 years running into burning buildings to save people. And Derek Cole had called him some old guy who got in my way. I turned back to Derek. Mr. Cole, do you understand what you just heard? You assaulted a decorated combat veteran, a man who risked his life for this country, a man who spent 30 years saving lives, and you called him some old guy who got in your way. Derek's smirk was starting to fade, but his arrogance remained intact. Your Honor, I didn't know he was a veteran. How was I supposed to know? My response was immediate and devastating. Mr. Cole, it shouldn't matter if he's a veteran or not. Assault is assault. But the fact that you think it would only matter if you knew his service record tells me everything I need to know about your character. That's when I decided to show the entire courtroom exactly what had happened. I signaled to the court clerk to play the security camera footage. Everyone watched in silence as the video showed Derek's BMW speeding through the park, nearly hitting Martinez, the veteran raising his hand in a simple gesture to slow down. Derek slamming on his brakes, getting out of his car, and violently shoving the 70-year-old man to the ground. The footage was damning, clear, undeniable. And Derek's actions afterward, standing over Martinez, pointing at him while shouting, then casually getting back in his car and driving away, showed a level of callousness that shocked even me. Still think this is ridiculous, Mr. Cole? I asked after the video ended. Derek's face had gone pale, but his toxic combination of privilege and arrogance still wouldn't let him accept full responsibility. Your Honor, I was having a bad day. I'd just gotten some bad news. I wasn't thinking clearly. I've been on this bench for over 30 years. I've seen people who lost their jobs, lost their homes, lost their children come before me. You know what they don't do? Assault elderly veterans because they're having a bad day. I walk closer to Derek, eliminating even more physical distance. Let me tell you what I think happened, Mr. Cole, I think you spent your entire life believing you're special. I think your father's position as police chief has shielded you from consequences. I think you've never been held accountable for your actions. And I think you walked into my courtroom today expecting that pattern to continue. Derek tried to interrupt, but I held up my hand. I'm not finished. You see, Mr. Cole, I've dealt with people like you before. People who think their last name, their father's position, their family's money makes them untouchable. But here's what you're about to learn. In my courtroom, none of that matters. What matters is the law. What matters is justice. What matters is treating every human being with dignity and respect. And that's when something happened that nobody saw coming. Something that would make this case legendary in Providence legal history. I paused, looked toward the back of the courtroom, and said something that made Derek's blood run cold. Chief Cole, would you please come forward? The entire courtroom turned around. There, sitting in the back row, was Police Chief Thomas Cole. He'd been there the whole time. He heard everything his son said. He watched his son show no remorse, display no respect, demonstrate no understanding of what he'd done. Derek spun around, and for the first time since entering the courtroom, his arrogance completely shattered. Dad, what are you doing here? Chief Cole walked down the center aisle, each step heavy with the weight of 35 years in law enforcement. He was in his late 50s, gray at the temples, wearing a simple button-down shirt and slacks, no uniform, no badge, just a father watching his son destroy everything he'd taught him. I addressed the chief with genuine respect. Chief Cole, thank you for being here. I know this must be incredibly difficult. Chief Cole stood at attention, his police training evident in his posture. Your Honor, I appreciate you allowing me to be present. Derek was panicking now. His lawyer looked confused. The gallery was on the edge of their seats. What was happening, Chief? I continued. Your son seems to believe that your position will protect him from the consequences of his actions. He's implied multiple times that because you run law enforcement in this city, he's somehow above accountability. I'd like to give you an opportunity to address that belief. This was the moment a father had to choose between protecting his son and upholding the principles he dedicated his life to. Chief Cole took a deep breath. When he spoke, his voice was steady but filled with emotion. Your Honor, my son is wrong. He has always been wrong about that. I've spent 35 years serving this city. I've arrested drug dealers, murderers, corrupt officials. I put my life on the line to protect the innocent and uphold the law. And not once, not one single time, have I ever believed that my badge gave me or my family the right to break those same laws. Derek tried to speak. Dad, the chief held up his hand, and the authority in that gesture silenced his son immediately. Derek, be quiet. You've said enough. He turned back to me. Your Honor, I watched the security footage the day after the incident. I saw what my son did to Mr. Martinez. I've read the hospital reports. I know exactly what happened. And I'm here today not as Police Chief Cole, but as Thomas Cole, a father who failed to teach his son the most important lessons: respect, humility, and accountability. The chief's voice cracked slightly. I thought I taught him right from wrong. I thought I showed him what it means to serve others, to protect the vulnerable, to treat everyone with dignity, regardless of their station in life. But somewhere along the way, I failed. And that failure is standing right here. Derek's face crumbled. For the first time, tears welled up in his eyes. Dad, please. Chief Cole turned to his son, and what he said next will be remembered in Providence legal history forever. Derek, I love you. You're my son, and that will never change. But love doesn't mean protecting you from the consequences of your actions. Love means holding you accountable so you can become the man you're supposed to be. He looked back at me. Your Honor, I'm here to tell you in this court that whatever sentence you deem appropriate, you have my full support. My son assaulted a decorated veteran. He showed no remorse. He disrespected this court, and he disrespected everything I've spent my life standing for. He deserves to face the full weight of the law, and I will not interfere. The courtroom erupted in whispers. This was unprecedented. A police chief in open court asking a judge to hold his own son fully accountable. Derek was openly crying now. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't mean. Chief Cole's voice became firm. Derek, do you know what I did yesterday? I visited Mr. Martinez in his home. I apologized to him on your behalf, even though I know that doesn't undo what you did. I looked him in the eye and told him that my son's actions don't represent the values of this police department or this family. And do you know what he said to me? Derek shook his head, tears streaming down his face. He said, Chief, your son needs help, not protection. And he's right. You don't need me to bail you out. You need to face what you've done and change. I had been listening to all of this with deep emotion visible on my face. This was what real courage looked like. A father putting justice above his natural instinct to protect his child. Chief Cole, I said, I want to thank you for your courage today. What you've done standing here and putting justice above your natural instinct to protect your child, that takes more strength than most people will ever understand. I looked at Derek. Mr. Cole, do you understand what just happened here? Your father, a man who could have used his influence to make this go away, instead chose to uphold the law. He chose to honor Mr. Martinez. He chose to honor the badge he's worn for 35 years. That is what integrity looks like. Derek could barely speak through his tears. Your Honor, I'm so sorry. I was wrong about everything. That's the first honest thing you've said since you walked into this courtroom, I replied. But sorry isn't enough, Mr. Cole. Actions have consequences. What I did next proved why compassion and accountability can coexist. I didn't just punish, I transformed. I didn't just enforce the law, I changed hearts. Derek Michael Cole. I announced my voice formal now. I find you guilty of assault and battery on an elderly person. This is a serious crime made more serious by your complete lack of remorse when you first appeared before me. I paused, letting the weight sink in. Here is your sentence. You will serve 90 days in the Providence County Correctional Facility. You will complete 200 hours of community service, specifically working with elderly veterans at the VA hospital. You will attend anger management counseling for 1 year, and you will write a formal letter of apology to Mr. Martinez to be read in this courtroom, followed by a face-to-face meeting where you will apologize to him personally. Derek nodded, accepting each part of the sentence. Yes, Your Honor. But I'm not finished. You will also create a video apology that will be posted on the Providence Police Department's social media accounts, where you will explain what you did, why it was wrong, and what you're doing to make amends. Your father has agreed to this because sunshine is the best disinfectant for arrogance. Furthermore, I continued, after you complete your sentence, you will speak to Providence Police Academy recruits about privilege, accountability, and what happens when you believe you're above the law. Your father will arrange this. You will share your story, not to humiliate you, but to prevent other young people from making the same mistakes. The sentence was severe, but purposeful. Every element designed not just to punish, but to transform. Chief Cole spoke up. Your Honor, I want to add something if I may. Derek will also be moving out of my house. He's 32 years old. He's been living under my roof, under my protection, under my name. That ends today. He needs to learn to stand on his own, support himself, and understand that privilege is earned, not inherited. Derek looked at his father with devastation. Dad, it's time, son, the chief said, his voice breaking. It's time for you to grow up. I turned to Robert Martinez. Mr. Martinez, do you have anything you'd like to say? The 70-year-old veteran stood slowly, supported by his good arm. Your Honor, I don't want revenge. I just want this young man to understand that every person he meets deserves respect. Age, rank, position, none of that matters. We're all human beings trying to live our lives with dignity. If he learns that lesson, then this whole experience will have been worth it. The grace in those words silenced the entire courtroom. Here was a man who was assaulted, hospitalized, and disrespected, offering forgiveness and wisdom instead of anger. I addressed Derek one final time. Mr. Cole, you heard Mr. Martinez. A man you assaulted is showing you more grace than you deserve. I suggest you spend your time in custody thinking about that, thinking about the kind of man you want to be, thinking about whether you want to continue being the person who walked into this courtroom today, or if you want to become someone your father can be proud of. Court is adjourned. The gavel came down. As officers approached to take Derek into custody, Chief Cole walked over to his son. They stood face to face for a long moment. Then the chief did something that broke everyone's heart. He hugged his son tightly. I love you, the chief whispered loud enough for nearby people to hear. But I love you enough to let you face this. You'll get through it. And when you do, you'll be better. You'll be the man I know you can be. Derek sobbed into his father's shoulder. I'm sorry, Dad. I'm so sorry. I know, son. Now prove it. The officers led Derek away. Chief Cole stood there, watching his son disappear through the courtroom doors, tears streaming down his face. This is what real love looks like. Not protection from consequences, but support through them. I approached Chief Cole and extended my hand. The two men shook. A moment of mutual respect between two men who've dedicated their lives to service. You did the right thing, I said quietly. Chief Cole nodded. Doesn't make it hurt any less. No, I agreed, but it makes it worth it. 6 months later, Derek Cole walked out of the Providence County Correctional Facility a different man. He had lost weight, gained humility, and found purpose. His 200 hours at the VA hospital had turned into volunteer work that continued long after his sentence was complete. He apologized to Robert Martinez in a meeting that both men described as healing. Martinez became a mentor to Derek, teaching him about service, sacrifice, and the true meaning of strength. Derek's video apology,